Open your little atheist books to chapter 5, to the equip questions. We're on page 38. Now we're talking about, we've talked about the creation of the universe, but now we're talking about, and then the design of the universe. Now we're going to talk about the design of life. So it's the anthropic constants or principle for human life, but all life, and where did the first life come from? So that's where we're headed. And so question 1 says this: since the 1950s, how have advancements in technology changed our understanding of the universe and life on Earth? Yes.
Has people sound like a part of like the tiny world of like design?
Right. As we have had advancements in the tools used to discover things, just like better and better telescopes helped us see more and more of the universe around us. Better and better microscopes have helped us see deeper and deeper into the living things. Not just human and animal, but plants and any number of things. So they've allowed us, enabled us to see the intricate details of life through advanced microscopes. And that gives us an understanding of how things work much more truthfully than before we had such technology. Question 2 says, how complex is a one-celled amoeba? Yes.
Has as much information as DNA as 1,000 encyclopedias.
Yeah, it has as much information in our DNA than 1,000 encyclopedias. That's pretty crazy, isn't it? I think what the way the book put it is that it is astonishingly complex. A one-celled amoeba that you fit on a pin head, right? And it has all kinds of information in it. So it's astonishingly complex. And we'll talk more about DNA, and it's really interesting how God fashioned us. So what is the supreme problem for Darwinists to explain? Yes?
The origin of the first.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, they can talk about evolution and that evolution caused things to grow and change and all that, which, spoiler alert, I'm not saying that's true. But they have to account for the first life. It's kind of like the universe. If the universe really was created, they wouldn't say created, came about from nothing, then you have to account for what caused the universe. And the same is true for life. What caused that to come into being? What caused the DNA? What was the first life? Because there was nothing living before there was the first life. Again, this is something about which even atheistic scientists would agree, that there was a first life and there was no life before that. So life had to come from non-life. And I think you've read in there about how scientists are trying to create life out of non-life. Have they been able to do that? No, they haven't. But even if they could, the only thing, and I don't think they ever will, but but if they could create life out of non-life, you know what it would prove? It takes a whole lot of intelligence to create life. Because there are scientists, I don't know how many thousands, I don't know, millions of scientists are trying to work on this and they can't do it. But even if they could, it would just show that life can't come from an accident. It can only come from intelligence. Question 4. What two scientists discovered the DNA? So who were they? Yes.
James Watson, Francis Crick.
Yes, Watson and Crick. And then the second part of that is, how significant was their discovery? I don't like how questions because it's like, you know, after the Super Bowl, how happy are you, Pat Mahomes, for winning another Super Bowl? I'm really happy. I mean, how do you answer that? Yeah, it was. Yeah, so it was obviously it was incredibly significant, but let's talk about why it was significant, because I think that's more important than how important it is. It's significant because it unlocks not only the complexity of life, that we are complex beings, and even an amoeba is astonishingly complex. Think how complex we are. If a one-celled amoeba is astonishingly complex. So if it's significant because it unlocks not only the complexity of life, but the specific message in each life form. There's a message in DNA, and if the message is different, then whatever has been created is different. It's like so next year in the spring, you'll be reading Pride and Prejudice. And it's among my favorite books. I don't like novels very much. If I'm reading something probably theological. But if I'm reading a novel, I'm probably reading a Jane Austen novel. And the Pride and Prejudice, the BBC version, which is the only one worth watching, it's like 6 hours long. And I have multiple times watched it in one sitting. So you'll be reading Pride and Prejudice. Now, I already have juniors in the other class, all girls. To read Pride and Prejudice next year. And all the guys are like, oh, please, anything like that. Why can't we read about hockey or something? I don't, basketball, not this. So even whatever it is, right? Whether it's a book that you're reading or a movie that you're watching, there had to be intelligence behind that, and there is so much significance and so much complexity in our bodies. To say that DNA came about by chance is like saying that there was an explosion in a book factory and out came Pride and Prejudice. And that couldn't happen, right? But as I've told you before, anything but God. They will grasp at any straw they can to keep it from being about God. So if we can't directly observe the past, then what scientific principles can we use to help us discover what caused the first one? What type of, I don't want specific things here, I want what type of evidence do we have? Yes?
I wrote down the forensic principles.
Right. It's the same thing that we talked about earlier, that we use forensic like they do in crimes. They find the truth through clues. and evidence. So that's what forensic principles are. And then you mentioned the principle of uniformity. The principle of uniformity states that causes in the past are the same as causes today. So things happen the same way now as they did before. I don't know why this is so that's the next question is state the principle of uniformity, and that's what it is. Causes in the past are the same as causes we observe today. Question 7. When applying the principle of uniformity to Mount Rushmore, or even the simplest form of life, what conclusions can be drawn? Yes. Yeah, there's no force of nature that would turn a rocky mountain face into four presidents. That had to have had a designer, and there had to be a lot of intelligence behind that, and we just know that intuitively. We don't, find someone's picture on the ground and say, "Oh, I wonder what storm came up and made this picture." We know that it had to have something intelligent behind it. The only reason to say that life came from non-intelligence is because they don't want it to be intelligence. They want it to be an accident, because then they can be comfortable, stay comfortable in their belief that there is no God. So an intelligent designer designed and created Mount Rushmore because no natural causes could do that. And no natural causes have ever been seen to do something. Natural elements tend to disorder. I don't have the picture. I probably have brought it in. I might have it on my computer. I don't know. But I think I've told you this. That in 1980, it's a long story, but the sirens went off, and we were in the basement, and we heard this huge explosion. And when we went upstairs, later we found out that our neighbors they had a screened-in porch, and the tornado picked up the roof of that and deposited it on my sister's bedroom. And my sister's bedroom was destroyed. That's what accidents do, not intelligence puts it back together, right? Question 8. If Dawkins and Crick admittedly recognize the design of life, why don't they admit an intelligent designer? Two famous scientists who recognize there's design, but there's no design. Why? That doesn't make sense. Why would they hold to accidents? Yeah.
As naturalism stops them from considering any intelligent cause.
Exactly. Yeah. They've preloaded their assumptions into their answer. And it can't be anything supernatural because there isn't any supernatural. So we have to rule that out. And once we rule that out, then there's only one option: natural causes. But no natural cause is ever seen to do anything. So yeah, they preordained that design is not an option. And their preconceived idea of naturalism prevents even the thought, the consideration of design, of intelligence. It's like saying, as I've told you before, what is 2 plus 2? But 4 can't be the answer. So solve this, but 4 can't be the answer. You'll never get the right answer. If you rule out in advance the correct answer, then you'll never get it. And so that's their prejudice against there being supernatural. And what I think of when I say that, and I'm just harkening back to chapel today and the stories we heard and all that God has done in the last week or so in our school and chapel itself. Teenagers wanting to spend more time in worship. Before I came to Christ as a 17-year-old, that would not have been me. And I think it's, to me, it's just undeniable that there is a God who created everything. So I think what we're going to do is, well, first of all, your verse quiz is tomorrow, so don't forget that. I'll tell you when the verse mapping is due. Don't worry, it's not due soon, but your letter is due tomorrow. If you are anybody in Spanish 3? Okay, so please bring me a copy of that. Please don't email that to me, and never share anything to me because for some reason our system doesn't recognize me and it says you don't have the rights to see this. So don't share it with me. Don't email it. Bring me an actual copy tomorrow, and then you'll have time tomorrow to work on your verse mapping. So please come prepared to work on that. If you've been working on it and you're kind of ready to start making your poster, then bring that with you to class. Obviously, this is a smaller class. You guys can spread, you can spread out and have plenty of space to work on that if you need to. But that's mostly what we'll do tomorrow. That's what we'll do after the verse quiz. So you'll have a goodly amount of time to work on that. And it isn't even due, so that the verse mapping is not due next week. I will only be here Monday and Tuesday of next week. My daughter's getting married on Friday, so I'm taking Wednesday and Thursday off. As God would have it, and I'm saying this, I don't need to hear any of this, but that's okay. We have the 10th off. It won't be due until the next week. Does that make sense? Because I don't want you to turn in something when I'm not even here. And I don't want to have you turn it in on Tuesday because that's